Hello again, Jason Triefenbach here with another quick look at a book I'm enjoying quite a bit currently, Muses No More, Portraits of Occult Women by Ùna Maria Blythe from Hexen Press, edited by Kazim with some very evocative and energetic illustrations supplied by Luciana Lupe Vasconcelos, as you can see here. With really good balance to some of the evocative and energetic writing, which Blythe supplies short portraits, written portraits of 17 female occultists, witches, magical practitioners, and in a lot of cases, politically active artists, creative types as well. I just wanted to read through a couple of my favorites. First, we have Rosaline Norton, the Witch of King's Cross, as she was known, an Australian painter and devotee of the god Pan. Here it's written, Norton claimed to have taken an oath of allegiance to the nature god Pan at the age of 13 during a ritual which involved the use of joss sticks, wine from her parents' collection, leaves, and a little of her own blood. This ceremony seems to have been inspired not merely by reading of such things, but rather by her own insights, or what might be deemed in contemporary magical communities as unverified personal gnosis, or UPG. It's also written, the life of a visionary artist in which Rosaline Norton Rowe to her friends was punctuated by devastating entanglements with the criminal justice system. Greenlease wasn't the only loved one estranged from her as a result of arcane laws, as we shall see. Like Sybil Leek, Norton was a media sensation, but her persecution was undeniably more brutal. As a proudly queer, sexually liberated woman, she was harangued daily in the street during the height of her infamy, charged numerous times for vagrancy and obscenity, and ended her life virtually a recluse. Norton's story lies at the intersection of issues which continue to be of prime importance in the present day: religious freedom, censorship, queer freedom, sexual liberation, and women's rights. Definitely. I wanted to read a little bit about Pamela Coleman Smith, who is one of the more famous women featured in the book. Pamela, along with a couple of collaborators, is the artistic genius behind the Waite Rider Smith tarot deck, which is probably the most famous tarot deck in the world. If you're someone who doesn't know much about tarot, it's her paintings, drawings, designs, which you are picturing in your head right now. We might, upon closer examination, note that the figures in Pamela's tarot are often gender ambiguous, reflecting the trend for short hair and masculine clothing common amongst her female friends at the time. Indeed, Pamela's friends often served as informal models on whom she based her illustrations. We can recognize the face of a young, boldly sociable Ellen Terry in the outwardly oriented Queen of Wands. The androgynous figures of her tarot add a dose of heft to suggestions of Pamela's queerness. She never married, had no children, and latterly spent 30 years with her companion, Nora Lake. More than this, and regardless of her sexual orientation, the representation of gender neutrality points toward Pamela's future involvement with the pre-war suffragist movement, for which she designed propaganda posters as part of the artists' collective Suffrage Atelier. Her work for the movement is both astute and deeply witty, thoroughly undermining Waite's sense of her as a largely surface-oriented person. Moving on, there's a little bit about another pretty famous woman, Sojourner Truth, who is known in a lot of circles for her political activities, but who was also, as written here, a mystic, an abolitionist, a woman of color, a spiritualist, and a gifted orator. She was anti-capital punishment and pro-health reform. She was a former slave who fought vehemently for the liberation of herself, her children, and others. She endured hardships that are barely imaginable and broke down barriers that were, at the time, often insurmountable beyond the awareness of elites, often insurmountably beyond the awareness of elites and the poor alike. She was immensely funny and deeply brave. She fought for radical change with fierceness and humility, and perhaps most of all, she was a great believer in the friendship and inclusive forgiveness of Christ. Living her beliefs, acting on them with grace and bravery, is her greatest legacy of all. Now, I could go on with some of these portraits. There's a lot of great stuff in here, but why spoil it? Because I would encourage you wholeheartedly to pick up a copy for yourself. Before I go, I just wanted to quickly note, as I said, the second part of the book, which is shorter than the first, is a series of practical magical rituals composed and organized by Ùna Maria Blythe, but inspired by, and I believe in some cases channeled from the women whose portraits are written in the first part of the book. There's a kinship candle ritual inspired by Doreen Valiente, the practice of oomancy inspired by Marjorie Cameron, a simple Sabbath unguent inspired by Rosaline Norton, and I'll read just a little of that. Flying ointment recipes have been traced back to the early modern period. Typically, these balms were hallucinogenic and were known to assist witches on their psychedelic broomstick rides across the hedge. Common ingredients included henbane, belladonna, and mandrake root. The following flying ointment recipe is not hallucinogenic, but its chief ingredients, mugwort and wormwood, are mildly psychoactive and will boost any journeying or spirit flight that you wish to undertake. Do not ingest the ointment, and do not use if you are pregnant. Use this basic recipe as a starting point for further explorations. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff here. Your ears can be microphones inspired by Maria Deniglowski, and there's a tarot for creative blocks inspired by Pamela Coleman Smith. A lot of really great stuff. I don't want to run on too long here, but I also appreciate that there's a pretty extensive bibliography for further reading. Just all in all, a really great addition to any library whose owner values creativity, idiosyncrasies, and really quality writing and art. So I hope you will pick up Muses No More by Ùna Maria Blythe, portraits of occult women with illustrations, once again, by Luciana Lupe Vasconcelos. Yeah, that's all for me today. And keep reading, keep writing, and keep being fabulous, folks.